After breaking off the engagement with me, Kenny felt guilty. He kept asking his girlfriend Kate to set me up with someone. I didn't really go along with it or resist. I just let them arrange everything. But none of the introductions felt right. Kenny wasn't about to give up though. He swore he'd find someone perfect for me, someone who'd make me happy. Then he'd walk me to the altar like a protective brother. Eventually, through them, I did meet the right person, and I was genuinely grateful. Kenny and Kate, however, had a falling out. I overheard them arguing downstairs. It was more like Kate venting her frustration. "What's up with Lisa? This won't work, and neither will that." My friend Larry went out of his way to invite her out, but she just kept turning him down with every excuse she could find. No respect at all. Kate's voice was loud. In my room on the second floor with the window closed, I could still hear everything clearly. Kenny kept reminding her to lower her voice, but she ignored him. I figured she wanted me to hear it on purpose. "She's not feeling it, we can't force this," I heard Kenny say, sounding helpless. "Not feeling it? I think she looks down on people like us. Larry's great, he's smart and hardworking, got a full scholarship to Harvard, and he looks good too. Lisa's just turning her nose up at him because his family doesn't have money," Kate said with frustration mixed with a bit of resentment. Images of the guy she described flashed through my mind: thick black glasses, a dull look, but lightning fast at grabbing a buffet. Lisa's not impressed with us lower-class folks, so she's snubbing Larry and me. She probably thinks I'm not good enough for you. That's why she agreed to cancel the engagement so easily, thinking you'd come back to her eventually. Kate's voice echoed with bitterness. "Stop saying nonsense," Kenny said in a low, firm, yet gentle tone. "Lisa's not like that, and I've always been clear about where I stand." "Oh, listen to that. How sweet of you, Kenny," Kate mocked, mimicking his usual way of calling my name. "Are you defending her because you still have feelings for her? If that's the case, I won't get in the way. Go ahead and honor your original engagement. I wish you a long and happy life together." She pretended to leave, but Kenny held her tightly with urgency. Tears streamed down Kate's face. What girl could tolerate her boyfriend having a previous engagement? "I wouldn't have gotten involved in such a complicated situation if I didn't truly love you. But here you are, betraying me like this." Kenny comforted her with all his heart. "That's not true. Our engagement was just a joke between adults when we were kids. It never meant anything. I've always seen her as a little sister. You're the only one I have feelings for." Kate finally stopped crying and wiped her tears with Kenny's hand. Her eyes drifted towards my window. That's when I realized, the last sentence was the real point Kate wanted me to hear. As Kenny and Kate flirted and went back into their room, I was lost in thought, remembering how the engagement between Kenny and me came about. It kind of felt like a plot straight out of a novel. My parents and Kenny's parents have been friends for years. Each family has one son and one daughter. They joke about becoming in-laws to keep the friendship alive. They asked if we were willing. Kenny, being the naive kid he was, asked, "If we get married, can I still play with Lisa every day?" The adults laughed and assured him, "Getting married means you can be together every day, and do whatever you want." Kenny immediately said, "Then I want it, I want to marry Lisa, I want to be with her every day." They asked me too. Girls mature a bit faster than boys, so even at the same age, I wasn't as clueless as Kenny. I didn't know what marriage really meant, but I knew being together in marriage was different from being friends. You can have lots of friends, but you can only marry one person. I thought about it deeply for a long time, making Kenny nervous that I didn't want to play with him anymore. He kept shaking my hand, pleading with me to agree. When I nodded, he even let out a cheer. Unfortunately, while I was wise enough to discern the difference between marriage and wanting to be together, I didn't know Kenny couldn't make the same distinction. And that's how the engagement was set. Our parents exchanged token like it was a real deal. Kenny and I continued to grow up, inseparable, until he met Kate. Then he finally realized the difference between wanting to hang out every day and wanting to marry someone. When Kenny asked me not to take the engagement seriously anymore and hoped I'd clear things up with Kate, I didn't say no. But I also didn't agree right away. I was a bit sad and shocked. I tried to keep a calm appearance, but I couldn't control my facial expressions. I just sat there with my mouth slightly open, unable to speak. I'm sure my distress was obvious. But Kenny seemed oblivious to it. All he showed was urgency and worry, urgent for me to clarify that we were merely friends, worried about the girl he truly liked offering her heart to someone else. Then I regained my composure. During that brief loss of control, many images flashed through my mind, asking Kenny tearfully why he did this, begging him not to like someone else, quickly explaining that for me. This engagement wasn't just a joke, that I truly liked him all these years. But looking into Kenny's eyes full of urgency and anticipation, I realized how ridiculous these thoughts were. Even if I made them real, Kenny and I couldn't go back to how things were. It would only destroy the beautiful memories that still existed. If Kenny only ever saw me as a friend, then I would simply take back my feelings. So I acted nonchalant and said, "How dare you break our agreement?" "Just kidding, let's go, quickly. I don't want to be blamed for ruining your happiness, can't handle that." Kenny came knocking on my door saying he wanted to talk. I glanced at the slightly open door at the end of the hallway. Clearly, someone was curious about our conversation. Might as well let her hear it all. I casually walked out of the room, leaning against the rail in the hallway. Kinda stuffy in here. "Let's talk out here." Kenny apologized for Kate. "I know you heard everything we said downstairs. Don't take it to heart. Kate may have a sharp tongue, but she's soft-hearted. She didn't mean anything bad. She even urged me to come and apologize." I didn't agree with that sentiment. If Kate really wanted to apologize, why didn't she come herself? Her mouth's not broken, is it? I wanted to throw a sarcastic comment but swallowed it instead. Arguing drains energy, makes things awkward and embarrassing, and leaves me even more exhausted. But I didn't want to say insincere things like "it's fine" or "I don't mind" either. After a brief silence, I said, "I can understand Kate's outburst. Having a boyfriend who has an ex-fiancé as a playmate, even though the engagement is off, but still living together every day, it's only natural to overthink things. Kenny, I told you before, once you start dating, it's not ideal for us to keep living under the same roof. You and Kate don't want to move out, so I'm willing to. The place we're in now was bought with the help of both our parents after we started college. It was to avoid the cramped dorm life. When Kate found out Kenny owned half of it, she moved in without hesitation. We're almost graduating, and when we sell the house, if you feel bad that I lived here less, you can give me a bit more from the sale. Or if you've got the cash now, just pay me half based on market price. Then you can decide on selling whenever. That's my honest idea." Kenny looked at me pleadingly. "Lisa, can we stop talking about you moving out? If my parents find out I let you live alone, they'll go nuts on me. Besides, why's it weird living together? You're my sister now. What kind of brother kicks his sister out?" Back in sophomore year, my parents went abroad for a vacation. Their plane crashed unexpectedly. No survivors. Kenny's family took me in. His mom reassured me that Kenny's home was my home too, and they were family, encouraging me to stay comfortably. Later, Kenny started dating Kate. Kenny's parents fiercely opposed him at first and even seriously punished him. He was grounded with a broken leg for half a year. Yet Kenny remained resolute about being with Kate. He's their son after all. They couldn't really cut him off, especially since I appeared unbothered by it. So, they eventually took me in as their daughter instead, canceling my engagement with Kenny. Lisa, they never lied. We're family no matter what. This house is your home too, Kenny's parents used to say. That's how I became Kenny's sister. Kate can't wait for me to leave, but Kenny's scared to let me live alone. As for me, I do want to move out, but I don't really want to see Kenny get another beating either. After all, we're longtime friends. Are we really gonna keep this up forever? Stop bringing up moving out, Kenny insisted again. He reflexively reached to mess with my hair like when we were younger. I gently dodged and cleared my throat. He hesitated, pulling his hand back awkwardly. I didn't respond to his comment. Silence filled the room for a moment. From down the hall came a snarky remark, playing innocent every time, saying you'll leave but then sticking around for more attention? Just milking it for more cash, huh? Kenny flushed with anger and rushed to his room. What nonsense are you spouting? Kate replied with feigned innocence, just watching a drama where the second lead actress is so calculating. Why did you come back? Done talking to Lisa? Kenny fell quiet. Watching the whole spectacle left me drained. I barely lay back in bed when my phone pinged. It was a text from Kenny. Forgot to mention earlier. Don't worry about Larry, Kate's friend, if you're not into him. There's no rush in these things. I'll help find better guys for you. No worries, we'll make sure you find someone perfect. I stared at the message, zoning out again. Since Kate got with Kenny, she's talked about getting me a partner too, so we can all go on cute double dates. I get Kate's angle. It's about making sure nothing's left unexplored with Kenny and me. And Kenny gets it too. To appease her, he's been trying to set me up. Part of it might be his own guilty conscience. Not for breaking the engagement with me, but for breaking it with an orphan. If my parents were around, maybe a bruising would have sufficed, and he'd feel free to chase true love. But with them gone, claiming love above all else somehow makes him come off as ruthless. Only if I found someone would Kenny not seem cold-hearted. I wasn't initially on board with it. It's ridiculous. They've got their happy ending, but I must speedrun love just to keep their peace. It's nonsense. Am I a relationship catalyst or a stabilizer? Eventually, I agreed, not due to naive goodwill, but because of Kenny's parents. Despite me acting unbothered by Kenny, they sensed my real feelings. They felt incredibly guilty. I don't think they owe me anything. They've always been wonderful. In my darkest times after the accident, their day and night support helped me through. In some way, I owe them. Kenny's decision did affect me, but he's his own person. His choices are independent of his parents. But Kenny's folks had that old mindset, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. They felt obliged to make it up to me. Since then, Kenny's parents have genuinely tried to make amends. Their guilt makes it uncomfortable for me, though. I explained, but they wouldn't hear it and only felt guiltier. So after deliberation, I played along, casually open to meeting others, not stuck in the past. I never intended to stay single forever. But this isn't a game. I won't leap into something just to ease worries. Going with the flow seems wiser, expanding my circle. No connection? Fine. Feeling a bond? Chat more. Unfortunately, Kenny and Kate's prospects haven't sparked any interest. Kate once joked I had high standards. Is it me or their hasty pics? Tough to say. I put down my phone, not texting Kenny back. I thought the ordeal with Kate's bestie was over, but Kate kept pushing. She made Kenny and Larry coincidentally meet me at an art exhibition. I had no choice but to join in. She would occasionally disappear with Kenny, leaving me and Larry together. I only focused on my exhibit. When Larry tried to chat, I just went with the usual polite attitude you'd have with someone you don't know well. Kate didn't like that one bit. During lunch, Kate kept going on about how amazing Larry was. Lisa, you're Kenny's sister, so you're like my sister too. If it was just anyone, I wouldn't even introduce them to Larry, she said passionately. Oh, by the way, Kate's friend is named Larry. But that doesn't really matter. At that moment, I could only marvel at one thing: Kate's quite the character. She clearly had issues with me and would often gossip behind my back, letting me overhear on purpose. But somehow, as long as she didn't badmouth me to my face, she seemed to think she didn't have any ill will toward me. I responded half-heartedly, treating it as background noise. Other people are talking to you, and you just ignore them? That's rude, Kate criticized bluntly. Enough already, Kenny nudged her with his elbow. I saw Kenny's face was all red, looking embarrassed. Kenny and I were raised with similar family values. Never casually judge others because you don't truly know their experiences or feelings. Never create awkward situations, always put the big picture first. Our families are both in business, so we value leaving room for others and maintaining harmony. Listen carefully, but don't just argue back because your understanding might be wrong. Plus, if you really think someone's being foolish, humor them and see how far they'll go. Communication is an art, and having some insight is essential. Grown-ups rarely flip out. Not responding directly simply means disinterest while maintaining decorum. Rambling on is what's truly rude and tactless. Honestly, I don't know if these rules are right or wrong, good or bad. But after years of being steeped in them, my actions are driven by them. Same with Kenny. So, at that moment, he knew I was tolerating it and thought his girlfriend was being impolite. Kate perked up again when a stranger asked to share our table. Sorry, the gallery's a bit packed today, mind if I join you guys? Nobody reacted, but Kate was the first to shriek excitedly, Ben. Of course. The visitor was dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, with a tall and striking appearance. It was obvious he'd been in the professional world for a few years, not a student. Soon, Kate did the introductions. Apparently, he was a distinguished graduate from Harvard's finance department and a successful young entrepreneur now, named Ben. Oh, fellow alumni, Ben greeted us warmly. Not exactly, Kate said, pointing to herself and Larry, then at me and Kenny. We aren't, but we're all friends. Mulling over the word friends, I glanced at Kenny, finding it intriguing. Ben, sit here. There's room, Kate nudged Kenny, trying to make space. Ben waved it off, pointing beside me instead. No need, I'm fine right here, he asked politely. I nodded, not minding. Kate seemed a little miffed but didn't let it show too much. She chatted with Ben, using their shared college as a conversational springboard. I wasn't familiar or particularly interested, so I pulled out my tablet and started touching up an unfinished piece. Before I knew it, I was pretty absorbed until Kate's voice pulled me back. She called Ben twice, which was when I noticed their conversation had ceased, and Ben was staring intently at me. Sorry, did I interrupt you? Didn't mean to, he apologized. Seeing you draw was really soothing, and I just zoned out. Surprised that he liked the piece, I handed him the tablet to check it out. Thanks for the compliment. Do you like surrealism? Ben appreciated it for a bit, then asked, this might be a bit forward, but could I buy it? That caught me off guard. It's just a rough practice piece. If you like it, I'll finish it and give it to you. He didn't hesitate. Thank you so much. Let's exchange contacts, he suggested, pulling out his phone. I happily pulled up the QR code. But Kate abruptly interjected, Ben, adding a girl is serious business. Shouldn't you check with her boyfriend first? Don't want to create tension in a relationship. Just add me, she can send it through. Ben calmly scanned it. Are people so restrained these days? Seeing someone means you cut all ties with the opposite gender? That's not the only possible connection between men and women. If you genuinely love someone, shouldn't you trust them enough? Kate seemed thrown off, unable to reply for a moment. Ben then glanced at Kenny and Larry, so, who's the lucky guy? I rested my chin on my hand and looked at Kate, I wonder where my boyfriend is too. Kate didn't flinch, saying, I spoke without thinking earlier, but it's about the same. No big deal. Lisa, with how long you've had a thing for Larry, what's the hold-up? Such an outstanding guy, you'll regret missing out. Then, with a meaningful pause, she added, or are you ditching Larry for rich Ben now? We shouldn't be that way, you know. Her insinuation was crystal clear. Clear enough to be almost foolish. What seemed like playful banter was, in fact, her accusing me of being a gold digger, stringing people along. For the first time, I was genuinely put off by Kate. I had always thought her hostility stemmed from my history with Kenny as his former fiancé, and my ongoing ties to his family. For someone inexperienced in relationships, it's tough to face such a presence calmly. Feeling threatened and showing hostility is natural. Once I found a clear romantic path, I believed this hostility would dissolve. Hence, I tolerated Kate's suspicion and lack of manners for the longest time. I wanted to believe she was inherently kind and just struggled with managing a tough relationship. Kenny had once described her as warm-hearted and loyal, a little ray of sunshine that filled him with energy and made his heart race. As much as it pained me then, I had to admit that Kenny isn't blind. Anyone who catches his eye must truly be exceptional. Just now, Kate made it pretty clear she didn't want me connecting with Ben. She even made up stuff to blame me right to my face. Logically, Kate should be happy about this. There's a guy who appreciates me, and I don't mind getting to know him. If something does happen between us, she wouldn't have to worry about me not moving on from Kenny. Why the rush to stop it? Considering how she acted today, the answer's obvious. Out of the 3 guys there, she thinks Ben is the best, even better than Kenny. And she can't stand me having anything better than her. Underneath all that, she probably feels I'm beneath her, like I'm a lousy person. Even if Kenny wasn't in the picture, if we met under different circumstances, I doubt we'd click. Lisa, could you just give a clear answer? Don't keep Larry screwed up in the head, Kate mumbled again. I looked at her, resting my chin in my hand, not really getting mad. Kate, do you know about psychological projection? Huh? She seemed confused about what I was getting at and told me not to change the subject. I had repeatedly said I had no special feelings for Larry. But you kept going on about how great he is, disregarding my real thoughts, thinking I looked down on his family background. So I have every reason to think you're projecting your mindset onto me. Meaning, you actually love Larry, but you care more about a guy's wealthy background. So you didn't end up with Larry, who you internally believe is amazing, but went for Kenny, who's from a better-off family. And now, seeing Ben, who you admire, makes Kenny look less appealing. Kate was stunned, probably not expecting me, the one usually silent and unopposing, to say such sharp things. She shrieked, "What are you talking about? I might actually be talking nonsense." Her actions aren't really some subconscious psychological projection, just a way to humiliate me. No way does she love Larry. If she despises me, there's no way she'd set up any guy she thinks highly of with me. She'd want someone she considers lowly to match with someone else she views the same way. Their history of growing up together might be just a facade, who knows how close they really are. As for Ben, she definitely likes him, but it's probably not strong enough to change everything. At least not unless she feels super sure she could get Ben. Kenny didn't look good, and Kate frantically explained to him that she doesn't like Larry at all and hasn't wavered today. I stirred the pot a bit more. Don't be so quick to deny. People usually project because deep down, they can't acknowledge their true feelings. Think harder. Since you say Larry is great and you two go way back, why aren't you with him? And about Ben, today you gave him all these introductions about yourself. Why not introduce Kenny as your boyfriend? Are you subconsciously trying to appear single? You gotta be clear with yourself, know who you really like. Being confused isn't fair to others or yourself. It seemed like Kate fell into a trap of proving herself. She babbled, unsure of how to defend first. In a panic, she blurted out what she really thought of Larry. Who would like Larry? He just studies all day without saying anything clever. And he's so cheap, he saves toilet paper and uses it square by square. We're just from a small city, not flat out broke, why act so embarrassingly? So pathetic. Maybe she felt proving she didn't like Larry made her confident in hiding any feelings for Ben. I only respect Ben as an admirable senior. Since I have no ulterior motives, I didn't emphasize my relationship status. She thought her explanation was solid, unaware Larry stood up silently and left. Only then did Kate realize how mean her words were, spoken publicly, especially in front of someone she admired. I added, "So Larry's beneath you?" But you said you wouldn't introduce him unless he mattered to you. Does that apply to me too? Kenny cut in, enough, Lisa. Kate seemed to regain herself and burst into tears. You said you wanted to date, and I kindly set you up, but you just aimed to embarrass me. Are you still hung up on Kenny? Trying to break us up? No wonder you didn't like anyone I introduced you to. You just want to steal other people's boyfriends. She glared at Kenny. From now on, it's either me or her, you decide. After saying this, she stormed off, finally cutting ties with me. Kenny stood too, looking at me with a complex expression. Lisa, you shouldn't have made it harder for her. Got it, Kenny thinks my behavior's embarrassing too. Maybe he expected me to laugh it off, like usual. I guess my family and Kenny's family weren't raised the same. My parents always said, it's about keeping peace, but if someone openly shows malice, fight back. Otherwise, people will see you as weak and easy to pick on. Kenny walked away. And me? I was kind of hungry again. Probably used up a lot of energy talking and drawing. I called the waiter over. Can I get another steak, please? A snicker came from nearby. I realized Ben hadn't left. Feeling a bit awkward, I said, hey, sorry for dragging you into this mess today. Can I get you something? My treat. If I were Ben, I'd feel pretty speechless right now. Just sat down to share a table and ended up tangled in drama. Even though Kate first dragged him into this, I didn't spare him either. Ben replied seriously, I've already overindulged on gossip. Can we change that to something else? Like what? Like making a friend. What kind of request is that? We're already friends, aren't we? I showed my phone, we've added each other on Message. Ben cleared his throat. Then as a friend, could you sign an autograph for me? What? He pulled out his phone and opened a video app. You're the art account EE, right? I'm a fan. Getting recognized caught me off guard, and I was momentarily stunned. When my parents were going through their stuff, it threw me into a deep funk. I channeled everything into drawing. Sometimes when I felt better, I'd post the drawing process online, eventually gaining some followers. After pulling through that dark time, I didn't stop updating. How did you know? Was it because you saw my painting just now and found the style familiar? Ben stammered a bit, and his ears turned red. Actually, no. A wild thought crossed my mind. Did you recognize me first and then deliberately sit at my table today? Ben nodded, yes. No way, how did you recognize me? I've never shown my face. Ben said, you show the upper half of your back in your videos. I have really good eyesight. Since that day, Ben magically became someone I couldn't ignore in my daily life. He seemed quite free, like no company was waiting for him to manage, and he often invited me out. I asked him about it, and he said, we work hard and strive so much so we can have more freedom and enjoy life more. If I don't even have the chance to rest when I want, wasn't all my hard work in the past 2 years for nothing? Made sense, couldn't argue with that. With my extensive experience in blind dates, I knew what Ben was thinking by frequently asking me out. Actually, he admitted it quite easily. Honestly, I clicked with him. It felt comfortable being around him, even oddly familiar. But I can be a bit stubborn sometimes. I couldn't understand why he was so enthusiastic when we had just met. I know he likes my paintings and appreciates my style, but art is art, and people are people. Ben had more to say. Paintings carry the artist's soul. It looks like your art attracted me, but really, it's your soul. Come on, don't be so philosophical. I'm not some big artist, just a regular art enthusiast. Not professional, just a hobby. Ben sighed, but I really think your art is full of life. I followed you when you first started your account 2 years ago. Your paintings were filled with emotion but always left a touch of brightness, like saying no matter how bad things get, we can't lose hope. At that time, I had just failed my first business venture, drained and hopeless. Every time you posted a video, I found strength in your work, which gave me the courage to try again. To me, we didn't just meet, you've been with me for a long time. Some distant memories came back, and I tentatively asked him, you wouldn't happen to be AA, would you? When I first started, there weren't many followers, but there was one account named AA who liked every piece and often left comments. They encouraged me and shared their worries, sort of my earliest confidant. It even grew into a mutual follow relationship, with occasional private messages. Ben confirmed it, yes, I am AA. I stuttered, not knowing how to continue. Because I later blocked AA. Can't blame me for that. Only he can be blamed for suddenly confessing to me. I thought he was a creep. What kind of good person would fall in love with someone they've never met? Plus, there were rumors on the platform about some guys stalking new female creators, offering emotional support, and then tricking them into meetings for shady reasons. This only strengthened my belief. Though his confession was carefully worded, tentative and polite. He said, I know this sounds incredible, but every time I see your art and chat with you, my heart isn't mine anymore. At that time, Kenny hadn't met Kate yet. I replied, freak, say one more word, and my fiancé will make sure you don't have a heartbeat. Then I blocked him. I didn't dwell on it. After all, the internet isn't short on the random creepy guys. It's been over a year now. Turns out he wasn't just some random creep. Maybe I should have rejected him more politely back then? Something like thank you for the kind words, but I have a fiancé. Ben chuckled softly, I was indeed too reckless back then. You were right to be cautious. He looked at me earnestly, when I recognized you that day, I had just one thought. This might be the only chance life is giving me to see you in person, and I had to seize it. At that moment, I thought perhaps you were married. If so, that was fine, I'd be happy just being a friend who could see you. I was quite taken aback, you're being way too sweet. I'm not used to it. Are you sure you aren't out for revenge? He laughed again, want to test it? If I'm lying, you can publicly shame me and let your million followers ruin my reputation until I'm broke. Me, sounds like a plan. That's how Ben and I ended up together. The day we announced it, Kenny came back, alone. After my fallout with Kate that day, she went back to school that night, and naturally, Kenny followed her. I heard Kate fought with him for days, and he patiently coaxed her through it all, dining, gifting, entertaining, missing nothing. As he should, being her boyfriend. Judging by Kate's recent social media, they made up and are back to normal. I'm not sure why he suddenly came back. Aren't you worried about upsetting her all over again? Lisa, aren't you rushing things? He frowned at me. You've only known Ben for a few days, and now you're together? So what? Is it a crime? I don't understand. Logically, he ought to be happy now. Me having a boyfriend means Kate can't use our old engagement against him anymore. His love life would be smoother, and he'd feel less guilty towards me. Lisa. Kenny softened his voice, I know it's because of what happened that day. You got tired of Kate's jealousy and didn't want more conflicts between us. That's why you rushed into this. But you shouldn't take love lightly. I talked to Kate in these past days, she won't suspiciously think anymore, you don't have to do this for us. I interrupted him impatiently, you're reading too much into it. I won't settle for anyone because of someone else. I do have feelings for Ben. Kenny's face turned pale, impossible. You just met him. I found it amusing, feelings happen in an instant, right? Didn't you fall for Kate at first sight? That's different. He retorted without thinking, you and Ben aren't a match. He's older, experienced, and has hidden depths, you can't handle someone like him. I frowned, Kenny. Show some respect for my boyfriend. Kenny looked at me in disbelief, you're yelling at me? For another guy. Why shouldn't I be? I sneered. Kenny, I'm an adult capable of making my own choices. If you disrespect him, you're disrespecting me. I've never casually critiqued your partner, have I? So what gives you the right to judge mine? Your partner? Kenny is panting and keeps repeating those words. I'm tired of arguing, so I pull out the prepared house sale authorization. You came at a good time. With the way things are between us, it's not right for us to share a house. We should sell it ASAP. I've already prepped to move out. Are you selling it, or should I? Both our names are on the deed. Neither of us can handle this alone unless the other gives authorization. If you'd rather avoid the hassle, just sign, and I'll handle it. I'll send you the money once it's done. Kenny seems to miss the main point. You're moving out now? Where are you going? He's staring at my packed bags, voice hoarse like he's forcing out words. Are you moving in with Ben? Of course not. I've been thinking about moving out for days. But really, why does it matter to you? I say. Kenny seems ticked off by that, grabs my hand abruptly. You've just started dating and you're moving in? Lisa, have you no shame? His grip hurts my wrist, and my patience wears thin. Are you nuts, Kenny? Haven't you moved in with Kate? Aren't you shameless too? I won't let you. He's yelling, practically screaming. What is wrong with you? Right now, I really find Kenny utterly baffling. I try to pull my hand away but can't break free. Kenny's staring at me intensely, his emotions so messed up, it's hard to describe. Mad and excited. Lisa, Lisa, he keeps saying my name. It's like the fog lifted, everything awakens, an oblivious traveler suddenly finds the fountain of truth. He pulls me into his arms. Wrong. I got it wrong. We both got it all wrong. Lisa. Ben's voice suddenly calls from downstairs. We agreed he'd help me move today. I'm here. I quickly call out. Kenny's not acting right now, it's unsettling and creepy. He turns, hearing Ben, his expression shifts. I won't let you leave with him. Kenny pushes me into his room, locks the door, trapping me inside, and then heads downstairs. I hear a commotion on the lower level. By the time I break the door open, Kenny and Ben are full-on fighting. Ben's trying to hold back but Kenny's lost it, fighting fiercely. It's chaos. I rush down to separate them, shielding Ben, and glare at Kenny. Have you had enough? Kenny freezes. You think I started it? It was him. I was just telling him to break up with you, and he punched me. Ben doesn't explain, just catches his breath behind me. Lisa, I'm hurt. I check his injuries, noticing several bruises on his face. Come on, let's get you to the hospital. Kenny snarls, stop pretending. I barely even hit you. Ignoring him, I support Ben, leading him out. Kenny blocks my way, voice raw. Lisa, I'm hurt too. You don't care? He points to his stomach and ribs. Here, he went all out. Finally, he taps his chest, and here. It hurts, a ton, for real. We've grown up together. To you, am I worth less than someone you just met? Kenny, I say calmly, isn't your pain self-inflicted? Kenny's taken aback, his body shaken with disbelief, and he doesn't stop me again. At the hospital, they confirm nothing serious, easing my worries. I take Ben home. At his place, every framed picture looks awfully familiar. Then I realize they're all my artworks. Once, when I made too many paintings to keep at home, I put them up for sale. They sold pretty smoothly, and I thought I lucked out. Apparently, he bought them all. In the living room hangs my favorite piece. I hadn't planned to sell it. Marked it high for display. And someone bought it. I wondered who was so. I mean, which art enthusiast had such fine taste? Turns out, it was him. Seems he wasn't joking about liking my work. I feel a bit sheepish. For a newbie in business, you should hang something with real value. People will laugh if they see this. If they knew one cost nearly $1 million, they'd laugh even harder. Not that I'm knocking myself. I just know my skill level. People outside think I'm cool, but insiders know better. Ben coughs lightly. I've never been into art, no matter how costly. Others explain, but I'm just lost. They never resonate. But your work? I like. Isn't value based on what we like? It's worth it to me. I'm unsure whether to be happy or upset. Alright, happy it is. That's kind of like finding a soulmate, right? Alright, it's been a long day. Get some rest. I'll head out. I say. Ben holds my hand, rubbing it gently, hesitating. Kenny's behavior was so off. I'm worried about you living alone. Want to stay here for a while? He quickly adds, just sharing space, not a room. I won't cross any lines. I find it amusing, we're adults. Even if something happens, it's normal, right? Ben breathes sharply, then leans in and gently kisses my lips. It's our first kiss, a bit chaotic, unpracticed. After a while, he pulls back, resting my head on his shoulder. If you say that, I'll lose control easily. I tease him, not for now. Let those bruises heal first. Ben tenses up, I'll heal well, no disfigurement. Or else. He suddenly stops. Or else what? Ben looks dejected, or I wouldn't have used my face. I thought you'd care more seeing visible wounds. Gosh, he's quite the strategist. I shook my head and asked with a smile, but how are you going to go to work at the company with those injuries all over your face? Ben leaned on me, acting all clingy, doesn't matter, as long as you care about me. Looking at this usually distant and restrained guy, it's surprising how good he is at playing the pitiful act. He's got a knack for being charming. Even living at Ben's place, I couldn't completely avoid Kenny. After an early class at 8, he stopped me at the door. Lisa, I've broken up. What's that got to do with me? When did that happen? Are you out of your mind? Lisa. Kenny smiled grimly while looking at me. The reason you like that man is just the novelty. That's not real love. The one you truly love is me. Kenny, if you've really lost your mind, go get help. Stop saying these inappropriate things, I calmly suggested. He ignored me and went on, I mean it. We were so used to each other that we couldn't see how much we mattered. It's like air, invisible and untouchable, but you can't live without it. You might not see it now, but one day you will, just like I do. You want to date him? Fine, I won't stop you. But when I date, you should too, it's only fair. Ultimately, we belong together. Lisa, I'll wait for you. I wanted to hold back, but I just couldn't. Taking a long breath, I tried to stay calm. Kenny, you only realize the importance of air when you can't breathe. Not everyone is as clueless as you. His pupils shrank, and his lips trembled. Are you saying you didn't just see me as a friend before? Did you like me? Did you? I didn't shy away, looking straight at him, yes. Maybe even with a word stronger than like, cherished. We've walked through every stage of life together so far. It's like we're twin flames meant to accompany each other through this unpredictable journey of life. As long as he was there, no matter how foggy the distance was, it wouldn't be scary. For me, that's love in its most tangible form. Maybe not thrilling or intense, but steady and reassuring. Tears welled up in Kenny's eyes. You're lying to me. If you ever loved me, why weren't you jealous of Kate? Why didn't you have a big fight with me? Why did you agree to break off the engagement? Why? I sighed. Did I really have no reaction, Kenny? Was it truly indifference, or were you blind and didn't notice? His expression froze. I think he finally remembered the day he told me he liked Kate, and my seemingly smiling but crying face. Remembered how I got seriously ill before officially breaking off the engagement, barely smiling for a whole month. Remembered how after confirming his relationship with Kate, it was hard for me to be as candid as before, preferring avoidance. Remembered how his parents repeatedly hinted or even directly told him not to hurt me. I consider myself a composed and self-controlled person. For me, those were extreme signs of losing control. Kenny and I grew up together. He knew my character. If he cared at all, he would notice something was wrong with my emotions. But he never noticed anything. 20+ years of childhood friendship, he couldn't see my sadness. That's how my heart gradually grew cold and calm. When Kenny talks about destiny today, I don't know if Ben will be my destiny, but Kenny definitely won't be. I'm sorry, Lisa, I'm sorry. Kenny was in tears. Give me another chance, please. Just for the sake of all these years, give me one more shot. It's precisely because of our years of friendship that I can't go back, Kenny. The more perfect a jade piece, the less it can tolerate any flaw. In the lightest tone, I tried to say, although the love is gone, I still cherish you and our acquaintance. So please, don't do anything inappropriate or say anything unsuitable. I don't want to completely remove you from my life's path, you know? He didn't respond, just walked away in a daze. But I think he finally understood. Lisa's epilogue. Being with Ben started as a trial. I wasn't expecting it to lead anywhere certain. After all, I've already gone through 2 major upheavals in my life, losing my parents in an accident, and having my fiancé fall for someone else. It taught me early that nothing in this world is controllable. So I'm just focusing on enjoying the present. I had feelings for Ben, so I thought I'd give dating a try. Turned out, I got a bit addicted to the feeling, to love, and to Ben himself. 2 years into dating, he proposed, and I agreed. Then began the wedding preparations. My foster parents put half of their assets in my name as a dowry, which scared me. I didn't dare take it. Take it, kiddo, they said. We adopted you as our daughter, naturally, you have half of what's ours. I secretly told Kenny, I'll transfer it back to you. Kenny didn't flinch. Why give it to me? You're my sister, you deserve half. And besides, he paused, then spoke the words, half of it was always meant to be yours. I knew what he implied. I wanted to say it's not the same. But in the end, I didn't say it. Since the candid talk with him 2 years ago, Kenny never crossed any boundaries. He's truly been a brother to me, even making peace with Ben, and they're getting along. So, I'll leave it unsaid. For the wedding, I chose a Western-style ceremony. I think it's the most romantic of any style. The wedding planner included a part where a brother carries the bride downstairs and hands her over to the groom. I wanted to cut that. Kenny said, keep it, let him catch some joy and find a partner soon. So I did. Everything went smoothly on the wedding day, except there was a moment's pause when Kenny carried me downstairs. He said, Lisa, what if I just ran off with you now? I wasn't nervous at all. I said, you wouldn't. He laughed, right, because the person you cherish now is him. You'd be mad at me. He held me steadily and handed me to Ben. I felt 2 or 3 warm tears on my shoulder, not sure if they were real. I heard Kenny say, take good care of her. I've watched her grow up. Ben replied, don't worry, I will. Kenny's epilogue. The moment Kenny saw Lisa's official announcement photos, something clogged in his chest. Even though he always hoped Lisa would find love soon. Kenny thought, it's because she's dating too casually, with no serious consideration, and that's not good. Kenny has to talk to her. Then he found out she was moving in with her boyfriend. At that moment, vivid scenes flooded his mind. Lisa kissing, hugging, and being all over another guy. His brain felt like it exploded. Kenny blurted out and called her shameless. Kenny thought he was mad at Lisa's rashness. How do you move in together on the first day? But deep down, a voice told him, it's not that. You just can't stand her being intimate with another guy. Even just imagining it made him feel suffocated. His heart hurt, almost like it was spasming from those images. But why? Why was it so hard to accept? He and Lisa were 2 separate individuals. Kenny had no reason to care about her private life. Because you like her, it's possessiveness, you want her all to yourself, said the voice in his heart. In that instant, it was like the clouds parted, and everything became crystal clear. Kenny didn't bother wondering why it took him so long to figure out his feelings. He just knew now that he needed to act on them. Lisa was his alone, and no one could take her away. Kenny got into a fight with the other guy. The guy didn't back down at all. They both lost their minds, acting like wild animals fighting for dominance. But Kenny was confident he would win. Because the outcome wasn't about who won the fight, it was about Lisa's feelings. He and Lisa had known each other for over 20 years, a childhood bond that a guy who had known her for a few days couldn't possibly rival. But he lost. Lisa stood in front of the other guy, glaring at Kenny. She cared about whether the other guy was hurt, but didn't care about Kenny at all. He was hurt too. Especially his heart. Kenny shamelessly tried to beg for her attention, but Lisa left him with a cold statement, "Isn't this what you brought on yourself?" He chuckled bitterly. Yeah, it was all on him. Kenny didn't go to the hospital for his injuries, he immediately went to see Kate to break up. Now that he knew his true feelings, he had no reason to stay with someone else. He knew to Kate, he seemed like a jerk. But Kenny didn't care anymore, Lisa was all that mattered. Kate was calmer than he expected, maybe she saw he had made up his mind, and asked for a hefty breakup fee. He sent it to Kate right away. Kenny wanted to meet Lisa cleanly and quickly. A whole night was enough to clear his thoughts. If time were a piece of fabric, then he and Lisa's most beautiful and precious 20 years had long been sewn together. Tangled threads, tightly interwoven, inseparable, like one entity. Because they seemed like one, they didn't easily notice the sparks between them. It was true for him, and he believed it was true for Lisa too. Kenny wondered why he ever fell for Kate. Apart from Lisa, he had little interaction with other girls growing up. Kate was the complete opposite of Lisa, carefree and unrestrained. If Lisa was a serene lily, Kate was a sunflower. That feeling felt fresh to him. That freshness felt special. And that special feeling made him think it was love. Kenny was sure Lisa felt the same about Ben for the same reasons. He wanted to share this discovery with her, to explain things clearly. Kenny hoped that once she understood, she would quickly break up with that guy. If she couldn't figure it out immediately and didn't want to break up, he wouldn't push her. He understood the pressure could make someone cling harder to what they think is their one true love. Like when his parents disapproved of him and Kate. The more they disapproved, the more he fought. He thought he was right. He was willing to wait for her to get over this phase and come back to him. But Lisa casually crushed his fantasies. Kenny unexpectedly realized he had been wrong all along. Lisa said, there was no going back. Kenny didn't see it that way. Life is long, no one knows what tomorrow holds. Ben might not be all that. Ben was human too. And humans make mistakes. Maybe someday Ben would make a huge mistake and break Lisa's heart. Even if he didn't make a mistake, maybe Lisa would just get tired of him. So he decided to wait, pretending to be just a friend, and wait for an opportunity. But 2 years passed, Ben was perfect, and Lisa never tired of him. They actually got hitched. When it was time to see Lisa off to her new life, Kenny wanted to just run away with her. He even said it. In that moment, he was hopeful. If Lisa jokingly said yes, he would take her and run. But alas, it was just a fantasy. He erased all the memories of that day, except for holding her. Lisa in her wedding dress, quietly laying in his arms. In his dreams, wasn't that the same as if Kenny married her?